Hey guys, welcome back to Vince-Vell Customs. This is part 3 of the PrototypeZ Sagat resin model kit. So, at this point, I drilled in all my holes. I have all the holes at the bottom of this. I have the holes here. Everything is pretty much all set up. So, next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these out in the garage and I'm going to prime all my pieces. And then I kind of want to get these primed up now because I want to make sure if I find any errors, it's kind of easier just to handle this instead of the whole statue. I'm going to prime up all this here. I'm actually going to prime my flames because the reason why I'm priming my flames is I'm actually going to chrome them. I don't want them clear, so I'm doing something a little bit different with my kit. So, but if you're going to actually just paint these in clear, once you get all the flashing off there, all you got to do is your clear colors and then you're done with those. But me, I'm doing the extra steps and we'll go from there. Now I ordered some bigger magnets because I don't have any magnets that are big enough because I want to actually magnetize the heads and the hands. So while I'm actually waiting for the magnets to come in the mail, I'll actually start priming and I'll piece these guys together. Now we'll come back in the video when I'm ready to start pinning. Now just to show you my pinning, I have metal rods like this and I have my bucket of metal rods, copper rods, metal pieces, some screws. I even have forks where you can actually cut off the piece of the fork if you have those. There's some nails in there, there's some screws. If you're going to use nails and screws, make sure they're not greasy, oily, or rusty. I don't know if you guys ever put together like furniture and you get some of those extra screws. Instead of throwing them out, just throw them in a bucket, save them. They're good for pinning if you're going to do something really thick area like here to here. But if you're doing anything like a female wrist or a hand, you kind of want thinner pieces. You can use paper clips. If it's really super small, you can buy these really thin copper pieces here and there at hobby stores. There's thicker pieces, like you can buy these that are hollow squares or circles. So basically I like to supply and stock up whenever I find stuff, and I don't like to throw them away. It's always good to have extra pieces. You never know what you need, so I had this on hand ready to go when I pin. So I'm going to go and prime all these up, and then once I get them all primed up and sanded, which I'm not going to do all videos on because that's just basic. I have other videos of doing that in the past. So I use duplicolor primer, filler primer first, make sure I fill up any gaps or I find errors, and then do regular priming. But we'll come back when I'm ready to actually start pinning the stuff. Once I get my magnets, I get some more magic sculpt so I can use for the inside, get some more glue, and we'll do a nice rest of the long video showing you how I do all that. Alright guys, we're going to start pinning now, and basically this is the way I set it up. I cut my pins on each one just using a basic wire cutter pliers, and I made sure each pin goes in pretty fair and even. You want to make sure you don't cut it, it's too long, and then you're pushing it like this, and then you glued it, and you're getting glue all over the place, and you don't want to do that. So basically you want to have all your pins ready for each section that you're going to pin. Then what you need is, I use this Insta-Cure Glue, and it's called Insta-Set that you spray on with it. Now this glue is very good, it's thick, it holds very well. It's like super glue, but it doesn't cause any kind of clouding or any stuff like that. So once you have this type of glue, you can order it online, different hobby stores. It's basically, they'll just put their logos on the glue. It's like a business card type thing and you can find it anywhere. And this is Insta-Set. Now, there is other types of glue like this, I forget their names, but there's stuff called Zip Kicker. It's like the same exact thing. Basically, you use this glue, you put dabs on stuff, you spray it, and it's completely dry in seconds. Now, this stuff won't hurt paint. It doesn't really run, so if you ever spray it on like a statue that's painted, just let it dry. So, with that being said, we're going to pin real quick. So I got my magic sculpt because I like using magic sculpt for pinning stuff. It seems to be harder once it's dried, and I use Avis for sculpting because it's just the way I like to work. So once you get your piece all ready, now a magic sculpt works good with water. Don't over watery it, but it works good with water. So that's why Avis uses a thinner, a solvent type stuff. And you can use a brush with it, kind of. And then what you do is you take your pin, push it all the way down there, make sure you're getting it into any of the crevices. Make sure all the holes are clean, there's no dust in there because you want the magic sculpt to stick. Okay, so that's pretty much in there. Now make sure you have everything lined up too, because you don't want to accidentally put this piece onto here if it somehow fits like it kind of does, and you glued it and you said, what the heck did I just do? So make sure you have all the correct pieces going to the correct legs and parts. You start with anything you want first, but I'm going to start putting the legs together first, and then what I'll do is I'll put the torso together, and then once all that's kind of set up and dry, I'll work on to the rest of the pieces. Now you can do this after you paint the pieces. There's nothing wrong with that. The only problem is you got to make sure that your hands don't have any of this gook from the Magic Sculpt or A's or whatever you want to use on your fingers while handling a painted statue, because then, you know, you're going to get all that residue and stuff all over the place. Now the other thing too is you don't want to put a lot of Magic Sculpt in here, because then if you glue it and you try to push it together, it's not going and it's like pushing. So you want to just get enough in there where it's going to grab each other. Now that being said, make sure you have the right sections. If you think you need a little bit extra around a piece, throw it in. And what I like to do is just before I actually do it with the glue, I kind of just like to make sure I'm going pretty good, and then I pull it out. It's kind of not grabbing each other, so that means I need some more in here. Let's see how this kind of looks. Alright, so that's kind of all grabbing, and that's looking pretty good. So now, next step, what I like to do is I take my glue and I just get a whole bunch of it around the edge. Not afraid to just kind of pour it in there. Now you don't want to go overboard, but you want to get enough in there where when it pushes in, it grabs. And because I put in all those notches, it won't bleed as much. If it does bleed at this point, it's okay. So making sure we're putting it in the right section. Okay. Now, what you want to do at this point, make sure your glue's not going all over the place. Now, here's your zip kicker, your Insta-Set. Don't spray this toward the glue if this top is off, because then you're going to dry up the whole entire bottle. I've done that in the past, but what you want to do is you want to spray this into the grooves. Get that in there, and that just sets the glue in seconds. I mean, that's set. This stuff seeps really good. It just goes throughout everything. If you can kind of see, the leg is all kind of just wet, and that's good. That's what we want. That pretty much holds the piece together. That's set, and that lets me let this sit overnight and lets the Magic Sculpt all pretty much really harden, become solid in there, and it's good. Now the reason why you're pinning it is because the pin is helping it in case, you know, this was to fall down or you kind of nick it here. If you don't have a pin to kind of keep it solid, you might actually just snap the leg again. Now, I'm not saying you're breaking the leg, but you're actually break whatever you did in here. But the glue is helping that just to stay, and then the Magic Sculpt will just take its time overnight and harden up, and it becomes like a hard resin, solid in there, and then the pin's holding it. So that's pretty much what you want to do. Now there is a little bit of a gaps here, a little bit, because it's not completely flush, but that's what Aves comes into play down the line. What I do is I mix up some Aves and I just run it along, sand it up, and I get it nice and flush and even. Now, like I said, if you want to paint your statue and you want to do this and glue it, you can do that too. There's people who have done that in the past. Take some practice in case you over glue and all of a sudden it comes all over the place. So you want to be careful. So what we'll do now is we'll do a fast video of me just putting the rest of these pieces together, and gives you an idea, because takes about maybe like a half hour or so getting all this stuff done. But I'm going to do this leg here, and then I'll do the torso. I'll let this stuff sit overnight, let it dry, and then I'll come back, and basically we got to put the legs on where they kind of fit into the base, because there is a little bit of a, not much, just a little bit of tiny little give, a little twisting. So you kind of want to basically put that leg in the base, this leg in the base, and kind of pin this one and this one at the same time so they're going in and out nice and flush. So that's just a little bit of a thing I like to do I like to cover all my steps when I do a kit, because when I first started doing this, I slapped this on, I slapped that on, slapped that on, and all of a sudden it's not going into the base. I messed up and I didn't glue it properly. So you kind of want to take your time. It is a little bit tedious, it is a lot of work, but it's better to get it done right in the beginning than all of a sudden you gotta do it all over again. So once all this is done and I get him nice and flush and I feel that he's good in the base and everything's good, when I get my magnets, the magnets will be the next step. Magnetizing the arms and the head, and I'm going to magnetize the feet going into the base. Then once all that's done and all the seams are correct and I want everything nice and clean and it's all ready to go, we start painting it up. A lot of steps, a lot of materials needed, but people do many different things. You can, like I said, paint it all together, glue it, and you want to be done, you're done for your first kit and you're experimenting. If you want to get used to using Magic Sculpt, Aves, glues, and really get yourself a nice solid sturdy piece, you can do what I'm doing. Okay, so as you can see, I basically pinned, glued, and used Magic Sculpt for both legs, getting the feet in, and I did the torso. So that's pretty much all I'm going to push my luck for tonight. I'm not going to try to handle this too much, trying to get these on because it's kind of top heavy still. I really want to make these sure they're secure, let them sit for a while. Magic Sculpt takes anywhere from, I think it's like 3 hours for it to really start getting hard to 6 to 8 hours for it to cure. I usually just like to do the stuff the night before and then just go to bed and come back to it the next day. It's just easier for me. But you know, even though I glued it and it's pretty much hard, still the center is all soft and everything. So trying to get this one onto here, and then I've done it in the past where I've been working on it and all of a sudden crack, blam, and boom, all that stuff. So plus I want to actually be able to fill in some of the gaps a little bit here and there with some Aves. So basically I will like to actually work with it like this. Now at this point I can actually get some Aves and I can actually fill in these cracks if I want, because the glue on the edge is pretty much cured and I don't have to worry about all that. But if you're really a little hesitant, you know, you can actually just let if there is any kind of air gaps, kind of just let it sit and cure overnight and do it the next day. It's all up to you. Plus also if I find any errors, I need some more sanding. Now if you actually did a mistake and you had some glue too much that came over the edge, hit it with the Insta-Set and let it sit. Don't try to scrape it off right away, rub it and go crazy, or the paper towel or your finger. It's not that big of a deal because you can actually kind of like use an X-Acto blade and kind of dig it up or chop it off, because it is sandable. Once it's cured, it is sandable, so you don't have to worry. So the reason why I was turning stuff upside down and turning it around is because if you just push it in, the glue might not hit. So if you kind of turn it upside down a little bit here, you let the glue kind of fall and kind of like just go back and forth, and you're getting it all over. So that's why I was turning stuff, and I make sure stuff goes like this and that, and you know, plus when I spray in the liquid, I make sure the liquid kind of rolls around in case there's any little air pockets, it goes through everything. So that's pretty much how I pin stuff, and it's pretty much how I like to really make sure everything's secured. It might be a little bit overboard, but that's what I like to do. So the next steps after I get this all pinned up, we'll come back where I'm trying to set it into the base with some more pinning, kind of just give you that idea. We'll move on to magnets, we'll move on to A's, fixing up some of the cracks and errors here and there, and then once all that's done, we can get into painting. So we'll see you next time, and hopefully you guys like the way this is working out.